Hello, and welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today, we're going to be doing another D&D 3.5 Prestige class review, and we're going to be looking at the Dirgesinger Prestige class from Libris Mortis. Dirgesingers are bards who have learned to use their magical music to bring eternal memory to the fallen, share their grief, and, most of all, to control life and death itself. To become a Dirgesinger, you must have 4 ranks in Knowledge Religion and 8 ranks in any Perform skill. You also need the Requiem feat, also from Libris Mortis, which allows your bardic music effects to effect undead, although the duration of such effects is halved. Lastly, you need to have bardic music as a class feature, so you need to have at least a few levels in Bard, and you need to be of non-good alignment, meaning you can be neutral or chaotic neutral, or else neutral evil or chaotic evil, to play a Dirgesinger. Overall, these requirements aren't very restrictive. Every bard will have perform ranks, so to enter this prestige class you need to be a level 5 bard and use 1 feat and a few skill ranks for the other skill requirement. And that's from a class that gives you plenty of skill points. It should be easy to get into this prestige class for almost any bard, even if you don't plan for it from level 1. That makes its requirements lightly restrictive. As a Dirgesinger, you get a d6 hit die, 4 plus intelligence modifier skill points per level, 3/4 level base attack bonus, and a good will save. This makes you pretty similar to a bard, just losing the good reflex save, which makes sense as this is a more caster-oriented class, and it also gives you some fewer skill points than you would otherwise have as a bard. That said, you only have a couple vital skills as a bard with concentration and perform, so you'll still be fine. Spellcraft can be kept up easily as well, but you might have to drop a couple knowledge skills, which might be a downside. Overall, the class stats are perfectly fine, although this prestige class does have one huge downside in that regard: it doesn't advance your bardic spellcasting. Dirgesinger also doesn't advance your bardic music, so you will miss out on Suggestion, Inspire Courage +2, and Inspire Greatness as you go through the 5 levels that Dirgesinger has to offer. You can get them later, of course, if you go back to Bard, but you won't get them at the time they are most relevant, so that's something to keep in mind. This isn't quite complementing Bard, it is like advancing in a completely different base class in some ways, so you could almost think of this as a more generic multi-class into something completely different. At level 1 as a Dirgesinger, you get Dirge Song, perhaps to be expected. This technically is your only feature. You get 5 different Dirge Songs, 1 at each level, and they all work like bardic music does, but they use bardic music uses, and your Dirgesinger levels give you more uses of bardic music for both Dirge Song and regular bardic music. Although, as previously mentioned, it doesn't advance the bardic music abilities you get. So essentially you get a different class of bardic music abilities. For level 1, you get Song of Sorrow. When you sing this song, your enemies get -2 on will saves and attack rolls and weapon damage rolls if they fail a will save against 10 plus your ranks in Perform. At character level 6, this would be a DC 19 will save, which isn't easy for a CR6 monster to make a lot of the time. The effect will also make them vulnerable to other abilities that you or your party members use. Singing the song for just 1 round can give your enemies a significant debuff for 5 rounds, and the range is as far away as you can be heard. This is a decent level 1 ability with multiple uses per day, a good start to this prestige class. At level 2, you get Song of Bolstering. This song gives undead within 30 feet of you turn resistance. The turn resistance is equal to your Bard level and Dirgesinger level combined. At this point that'd be +7 turning resistance, and that could escalate to some truly insane levels. If you're in a party with undead allies, this can be immense insurance against one of the deadliest effects that can ruin your party's day, which is a greater turn undead instantly killing them. This makes them all but immune to that. This is a great feature even if it is very situational, but this is Libris Mortis, the Book of Undead, so you're probably only looking at this book if your campaign prominently features undead in some way, so we'll give it a pass there. At level 3 you get Song of Grief. This lets you sing a song to inspire grief in a living creature within 60 feet of you, as a mind-affecting ability. If they fail a will save of the same DC as Song of Sorrow, they are confused for the duration of the performance, and 5 rounds thereafter. A lot of your enemies will be immune to this ability, and even if they aren't, it won't be as strong as an actual confusion spell. But it is usable more times per day than a bard would normally be able to use confusion at this level. This version does last longer, but the 7 or more rounds that a normal confusion lasts is generally more than enough time to neutralize a creature. Perhaps some situations will come up where you need to keep a creature confused for a long period of time beyond a minute or so, but in general, this ability isn't tremendously strong, especially given it replicates a spell that you could have cast by this level if you'd stuck with Bard in the first place. At level 4, you get Song of Horror. This song debilitates any enemy within 60 feet of you. Each of those creatures has to make a will save or take 1d6 strength and dexterity damage. Whether they succeed or fail, they can't be affected for 24 hours, so this isn't going to take anybody out of action except for maybe some oozes. This doesn't seem to be a mind-affecting ability, it's unclear whether it was meant to be. Either way, this is a pretty solid debuff as the save is a will save, which is better than a fortitude save like usual for this type of effect. And your DC will go up by 1 every level, instead of 1/2 like normal, perhaps a bit better when you take your ability scores into account. But let's imagine a level 20 character with this ability who would have a save DC of 33 for this Dirge song. That's not bad compared to the default DC for a level 9 spell from a spellcaster with an ability of 26, which is going to be DC 27. Of course, it's easier to get that DC way higher, but this is just a basic comparison. This point applies more generally to all the Dirge songs, but it's good to mention here because this might be the best of the offensive Dirge songs, at the very least tied with Song of Sorrow. At level 5, you get Song of Awakening. This lets you animate undead with your bardic music. The creature must have been slain within the past hour, and you have to make a perform check of DC 10 plus the target creature's hit dice, with maximum hit dice equal to your character level. The creature becomes an undead, but keeps its subtypes, as well as all class features, all supernatural and spell-like abilities, and it is completely loyal to you. It loses its extraordinary abilities, but that's a small price to pay, usually. This might seem like a strangely structured ability, creating an almost entirely new type of undead, but this effect only lasts as long as you continue playing the song, and it is meant to reanimate a foe in combat. So this ability is set up to be as quick to implement as possible, avoiding having to have combat screech to a halt so you can apply a template to a creature's stats on the fly. You can also only have one of these up at a time. Still, this is a great ability that can help you turn the tide in combat. Even limited to your own hit dice, there are tons of creatures with powerful abilities, spell-like or supernatural, that you can get a lot of mileage out of with this Dirge song. It is quite situational with the hit dice limit being an issue because you are often fighting creatures with more hit dice than the characters, but when you run into enemy NPCs, this ability is extremely powerful. Raising an enemy cleric who hasn't used all his spells yet, and forcing him to heal or buff your party, for the price of one use of bardic music, has incredible potential. So overall, the Dirgesinger gives up your spellcasting and new bardic music abilities for a couple decent debuff abilities, potentially very strong animate dead ability that is admittedly temporary, and a confusion style effect that is average at best. While Bard spellcasting isn't extremely powerful in the first place, it is still significant to give it up, and you definitely need to pick the right campaign for this prestige class, be very sure of your role in the party, and give you enough room to diverge a bit, and not worry about letting the rest of the party down. There are definitely better Bard prestige classes, but there are also worse ones. As such, the Dirgesinger gets 4 stars for concept and 2.5 stars for execution, maybe 3 in a campaign heavily focused on undead or with undead party members. The abilities aren't bad, but they have big shoes to fill. Taking something like Sublime Core to jump up to 4th level spells after this would be a good idea. You will need a couple more Bard levels first, and it won't be quite as effective, but it will help you a bit to be more effective at higher levels. That said, by itself, the Dirgesinger gives you a powerful ability at level 5, and some decent debuffs that are admittedly all situational, and overall it does feel like a downgrade from the straight Bard in a lot of ways, but it's hard to call its prestige class bad, let alone awful. The difficulty class progression for the abilities is quite strong. The abilities just have some issues that many Bard spells will have, and in fact if you consider each new use of bardic music to be equivalent to a spell slot, you're really only losing 1 spell slot from this prestige class compared to your advancement. That said, you would be getting bardic music as you advanced anyway. But in some ways, this prestige class is an upgrade due to that better difficulty class. It's also a downside in many ways to lose that flexibility, being restricted to a predetermined set of abilities, rather than being able to choose new bard spells at each level. How could the Dirgesinger be improved? Well, giving it full spellcasting might be too far, but having it miss only 1 or 2 levels of bardic spellcasting, perhaps getting advancement at levels 1, 3, and 5, would make this prestige class a lot more tempting. Giving up new bardic music abilities is hard enough, but expected for an entirely different class. Otherwise, there isn't a lot else to do. Maybe adding Animate Dead as a once per day spell-like ability at level 5 could be cool, but not really necessary. If this prestige class was meant for higher levels, it'd be more egregious for it to not add Animate Dead to your spell list, but seeing as this one cuts in when you're still in 2nd level Bard spells, it makes plenty of sense. Dirgesinger overall asks you to give up bardic spellcasting and in return gives you some abilities. And it is a fair trade given that it's very lightly restrictive, very easy to get into relative to a lot of prestige classes, so you kind of can't complain. But the idea of giving up very little for prerequisites, but then giving up a lot in terms of spellcasting progression makes it hard to really recommend this one. But if you see it and you like the abilities, you're definitely not going to ruin your character by taking it. So that'll be about it for this prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.